asking questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kelly, and thanks to everyone for coming together so quickly. We wanted to provide some updates here at the department, and the core of this update is first and foremost about the department's long-standing commitment for serving individuals with disabilities and supporting them to lead a life that is safe, healthy, and fulfilling. And core to that commitment is our commitment to choice, making sure that individuals with disabilities can live self-directed lives and have opportunities throughout the state and community to live those lives, and that their families can be supported as well. In keeping with that commitment, 2022 has been a year of considerable advancement. We have been working very, very hard to push forward on a number of things that will support individuals with disabilities. But we know that's not enough. We know the need to double down here is more than ever, and we are very committed to that at the department. In keeping with that commitment to see in North Carolina where people with disabilities can thrive, we are going to appeal the Samantha R decision that was recently made. While the department is deeply aligned with many aspects of that decision, I have grave concerns about key pieces of that decision that would limit choice for individuals and potentially push over 1,000, if not more, individuals in small community-based group homes and other spaces out of those stable environments that their family members and they rely on every day in a short period of time. Earlier this year, we made considerable progress on announcing our Olmsted plan. This has been a sea change effort in trying to build the rapport and commitment with decision makers and folks in the General Assembly and beyond to make meaningful investments in changing the way North Carolina serves people with disabilities. We have got to stay that course. We have got to build more options before limiting others. It is so important that we make sure individuals with disabilities and their family members have choice. In keeping with that commitment, over the last year, we have seen considerable investment. We've seen over 1,000 additional waiver slots from the General Assembly. We've seen rate increases in direct support professionals to try to shore up what we know is a crisis that touches every individual. We used every flexibility we could during COVID to support both individuals with disabilities and their families. And when we knew that the General Assembly was not able to do everything that we wanted, we tried to be creative and use the 1915I waiver status to allow more services and bringing that online sooner. Even while we've decided to postpone tailored plan rollout, we've decided to keep pushing forward on 1915I to provide respite services and other critical care for individuals with disabilities. We know that, again, this is not enough. We have got to do more. And that's why, in addition to announcing today that we are going to appeal, we are also releasing a plan that we believe provides a more thoughtful path. This plan has been informed by careful conversations with individuals with disabilities, their family members, and stakeholders from all across the state that we've been hearing from incredibly loudly over the last month and longer. These conversations are critical and important, and working with people to build a North Carolina together that we want to be different is critical for all of us, and it is going to take all of us to get it done. This plan recognizes the real sizable investments, and I believe puts us on a path for a vision of a very different North Carolina that, instead of pushing people out of safety, gives people choice. And that is the cornerstone of Olmsted, which we know is the most important aspect of the work that we do. Now, these timelines are incredibly important to us, and we are going to push forward very hard together to get this done. And the governor is incredibly committed to this work and seeing these investments in his budget. And I believe that while we have not normally gotten ahead of the release of the governor's budget, we are telling everyone today that we will see meaningful and sizable investments in serving people with disabilities in this budget, and looking ahead to a future where those investments need to continue for the years to come. Now, any plan has got to rely on leadership. And that's why I want to thank everyone, many of you on this call that have joined us, who participate in our Olmsted work in providing that leadership in making these systems change. But I also want to speak to two very important leaders that we are also announcing now, which is a new director for the Division of Mental Health, Developmental Disabilities, and Substance Use Services, and a new deputy director of that division as well. I'm so pleased to announce that Kelly Crosby will be our new division director and Renee Rader will be our deputy director. These two individuals together have over 60 years of experience in serving individuals with disabilities and mental health issues and substance use service issues. Both of them really started their work in serving individuals with disabilities and have worked in an array of organizations at the provider level and at the state level. And I know we'll be able to bring both the passion and perseverance into getting this work done as we implement this plan. Their leadership is critical. We have heard the call of needing their leadership at the top of the department, and that is what we are doing today. I am very happy now to turn things over to them for just a few moments to introduce themselves to this group. I have the great pleasure of knowing them, working closely with them, and seeking their advice frequently. But let me turn things over to them a little bit to talk about themselves. Kelly?
Thank you so much, Secretary Kinsley. I am humbled and honored and thrilled to be given this opportunity to work with consumers, providers, the community, my DHHS colleagues, to ensure that we have the best system of services and supports in North Carolina for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, mental health, and substance use issues. I've devoted my career to this incredibly important work, and I'm really glad to be joined in this next phase of my work by my colleague, Renee Rader. Renee?
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. I, too, am incredibly humbled and honored to be in this new role. As well as Kelly, I have also spent my entire career working in the field of disabilities, supporting people to live fully inclusive lives. I am so excited about where the department is. I am so excited about where we are going, and I very much look forward to continuing to engage with department as well as our community stakeholders, providers, and everyone else who contributes to this important work. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Kelly, and thank you, Renee. Again, I am so grateful to work closely with both of you and so grateful to have your leadership at DMH, DDSUS, which is such an amazing team of dedicated public servants. I think together we'll be able to make real lasting change, and of course with Governor Cooper's leadership on this as well. In just a moment, I want to turn things over to Deputy Secretary Dave Richard, who all of you know so very well, who I have the pleasure of working with closely, who has also dedicated his life to serving individuals with disabilities and has been working hard and creatively to leverage Medicaid in ways that we've never seen before in leading the nation and supporting people with disabilities. Let me turn things over to Dave now.
Secretary, thank you so much for that. And let me just join in and say how excited I am that Renee and Kelly will be taking those leadership roles at division. I think we have an incredible team now that supports that, and that will make such a huge difference for us and for the community. We're in good hands. I just want to add one other thing, and what you said about our appeal and where we're headed. I've been, as you know, working in this field before coming to the department for 30 years in North Carolina. And I have not seen an alignment with governor, secretary, legislature that is so committed to actually making the changes that we need to make to support people with intellectual development disabilities and all people with disabilities. We've got the right alignment right now. And I think that's why it's so important that as we talk about the plan that is an offshoot of our Olmsted work that was done with the community, the reason why it's so important to make sure that we're standing up for choice for individuals is that we have a real opportunity now to move forward in our plans for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And we're going full speed ahead. This is monumental to be able to talk about what could possibly will be in a governor's budget well before that budget's released. That is something that is significantly different. And I thank you for your leadership, and of course, Governor Cooper for being there, along with our members of the General Assembly who I know are supportive of these efforts.
Thank you so much, Dave. Again, I appreciate your leadership, and thank you for stewarding DMH DDSUS while we were in a thoughtful search for new leaders there. We'll now turn things over to questions. Again, we're really grateful for this time and appreciate it. Kelly, I'll let you take the helm.
Yeah, thanks, Secretary. So media, if you guys want to go ahead and start, it is a little difficult to see who all is on since we have so many people, but if you guys want to kind of ask a question, and then I do see a couple hands, so we'll start with Gary Robertson from the Associated Press.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. I just wanted to, you talk about the release of a new plan today. How is this different from the Olmsted plan that you've been talking about? And I'm sorry, I don't have on the nomenclature, but how is this different from what you've been apparently working on in recent months?
Gary, thank you so much. So our Olmsted plan is really about a sea change amount of work over a long haul, where we've had many committees working on issues like housing and transportation and service arrays and navigating the necessary will and change that we need to make those happen. Taking that plan and adding numbers and financial investments is the offshoot that we're talking about today. So what we'll see releasing here shortly is particular financial investments that we're calling on to be made in the next year that speak specifically to waiver slots and specifically to direct support professionals in the workforce crisis, and starts to pave a path on what we need to see over the next several years to make those changes as well. The Olmsted plan is the umbrella body of work. It's just as much about the big systems and policy changes as it is about building the buy-in and the collective partnership that we need so that everybody's on board to make these changes. And then this offshoot is really a more tactical, very specific things that we want to see immediately to double down on our investment in serving people with disabilities.
Could I just have a quick follow-up? It is a little bit unrelated, but could you describe what exactly is happening legally? Are you filing a notice of appeal? Is that happening today? Is it tomorrow? Could someone just fill that out for me?
We will be appealing and also asking for a partial stay, and we will make sure all those documents are released as soon as they are filed, likely today.
Thank you.
All right, Michael Highland from CBS 17.
Hi, good morning. I wanted to clarify one thing you had said earlier. My understanding from the order is that it doesn't require anyone to be diverted or moved from somewhere if they don't want to be. Why are you concerned that the effect of the order as it is would be that people would get pushed out of the environments that they're in?
Michael, I appreciate you asking this question, and this is incredibly important to understand. So the order as written says that the front door of community-based institutions, ICFs, including small group homes or institutions that serve people that are incredibly medically fragile, the front door of those facilities has to be shut. When you have a 6-bed group home and new admissions cannot happen, after you have 1 or 2 open beds in that facility, then you can't continue to sustain that facility and operate it financially, which means those facilities will end up closing. And when you shut the front door of any business, leading up to the date where that happens, I have serious concerns that we'll have a mass exodus of providers that are doing that work, right? We can't have that. Those 6 individuals that live in that small group home, or 10 individuals, or even more that live in a facility specific for folks with medical fragile needs, we can't have them pushed out with no options to go. You know, I think back to the 70s when there was a big movement to close down large facilities, which was the right thing to do, but it was done before community-based services were available. And we saw increases in homelessness, and we saw increases in individuals with mental illnesses ending up in jails. We do not need to repeat that history, and we need to build more community-based services and work together, and again, lean into choice, giving people choices.
All right, Tyler Fleming from Spectrum News.
Hi, thank you for the time. As a part of the order, as I understood it, the system, there's about 16,000 people on the waiting list for the innovation waivers. Is reducing that number down to 0 within the next decade a part of this new plan? And is there any kind of information you can share on how that might be funded?
I want every single one of those people to get services as soon as possible. And frankly, I don't believe a decade alone is even ambitious enough. That's why not only are we calling for more investments in innovation waiver slots, but it's also why we have been using state dollars to support individuals that don't currently have waiver slots to make sure that they can get services too. And actually, if we expanded Medicaid, we could free up a lot of state money that we currently have and use it to support more people with disabilities. And the last thing is that the 1915I state plan amendment that we've done with Medicaid allows us to pay for more services using Medicaid for those people on the wait list as well. So yes, we need to serve all of those people. And what I worry about the current structure of the ruling is that waiting list would get even longer if we started to have wholesale facilities closing down. So we've got to serve those people and we have to do it fast.
All right, Rob Schofield from Policy Watch.
Hey, thanks so much for taking my call. Secretary, I talked to some of the advocates, of course, on the other side, and it seems a little incongruous that this is sort of like being announced as a big celebration, yet the advocates, of course, from disability rights representing the plaintiffs are deeply concerned about the appeal, and my understanding is actually sought to find common ground with the department on some sort of an agreed time frame for making this, an agreement going forward in front of the judge, but that those overtures actually were rejected. Is that the case, and why would that have been the case?
Rob, thank you so much for that question, and always good to hear from you. We have been working, I applaud disability rights and the work that they do on behalf of individuals. I will say that over the last month, in keeping with pretty much every month, I hear from groups of folks far and beyond, just that one individual advocacy organization. And so really being able to find middle ground across many entities, not just the 5 plaintiffs and disability rights, but truly the entire community has been our objective. Through the Samantha R process, we have been incredibly partnered with disability rights and working with them through issues. I myself have been in many meetings with them and the judge. We have been very transparent about our concerns and the unintended consequences of the way that this ruling is structured. And so I hope that we will find a better way forward. We have been very transparent about the need to do that. And we cannot have a ruling go into place that's going to bind our hands, that's going to push people into homelessness, essentially. We've got to find a different path.
So as a follow-up, is there, there's no way to agree on a time frame for getting, obviously this unmet need with thousands of people needing services, is there any way we can get an actual agreement on an actual deadline to get this done?
That's why it's so important, as Deputy Secretary Richard mentioned, that we have the General Assembly at the table. We need their funding to support these slots and the other investments that we need to make, and we need to do it fast and working with them. And we have that alignment now, and I'm hoping that we'll be able to get this done with them.
All right, do we have other questions from the media? Secretary, if you have any closing comments, and then we'll call it a day.
Well, thank you again to everyone for joining today. As we've announced, we are continued our commitment to serving people with disabilities to live and to thrive and to have choice. The plan that we're putting forward, the leadership that we're bringing to it, I believe really brings together an alignment of many, many, many interested folks. But I just want to end with a story that I heard from a parent. His name is Keith, and he reached out to me in response to the current situation with this ruling and shared the story about his daughter living in a small 10-bed facility and the amazing community-based care and services and time they get to spend together, and the fear that that family has been having because of the potential effects of this ruling. And again, while we're so deeply aligned with many aspects of it, we want to get this right. We cannot repeat history. And so we look forward to working with all of you to get this done. Thank you.